Elaaheh Jamali, which some of you might know her online as Lily Moo. Elaaheh is a passionate advocate for human rights and social justice. With a background in medical biochemistry, born in Iran and raised in England, Elaaheh brings a unique perspective to her activism, drawing from her diverse cultural experiences. Elaaheh, it's such a pleasure to have you on again, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natalie June. Thank you, Durud, to everyone. Just like our other speakers, I want to send my deepest condolences to my friend Ghazaleh Shahmat and her dear family. They've been working relentlessly every day for the past 4 years trying to bring Jamshid back home, but the atrocities that the regime places upon us, Iranians, dissidents, whether in Iran or outside, anybody who speaks against this regime is in danger of kidnapping and murder, as we have witnessed yesterday in a very devastating manner that Jamshid is now no longer with us. Thank you so much for having me. I am a human rights activist. I'm a women's rights advocate, and since Mahsa was murdered at the hands of the morality police, all of my life has been about bringing more awareness to the international community towards Iranians suffering at the hands of the regime. And as a lot of you already know, since what happened in October 7th of 2023, my activities have doubled in a sense that the enemy is no longer just within the borders of Iran, killing Iranians. It's openly showing to the international community what it is capable of. And October 7th was a perfect example of that. The atrocities committed against Israeli, Jewish, Arab, and Druze women and men is a great example of the atrocities and violations that this regime is willing to commit, whether it's through its own hands or its proxies. Natalie has been working so hard trying to build a bridge in the diaspora between Iranians and Israelis and the international community to show this bond and connection between us. And I'm very honored to be here. Also, Sarah Raviani, you're fantastic. Shirin Yadgar, you're amazing. Every single one of you here who is working so hard to bring awareness regarding the atrocities of this regime against our incredible people in Iran. Every single one of you is working so hard, and you have so very difficult and hard, and you have my full respect and admiration. Honestly, I wish I could do a little, just a little like you all. So thank you. If there's any questions you have regarding my recent activities or what's been happening in Iran, by all means, please ask, and I'm all yours.
So we did have one question. Maybe Elaaheh, if you want to kind of answer this, but some people are confused as to how we got to this place in Iran. How did the revolution happen, and how did it escalate to this point where women were stripped of all of their rights? How was Iran once considered really, it was considered like the Paris of the Middle East?
Absolutely.
How did we get to this point? Because the fact that we got to this point is, I think it makes a lot of people fearful that even a place like America could get to this point. And maybe you can go into that a little bit.
You said it so well. America is actually at risk of such a revolution, and people are not really waking up to this matter. Because what happened in 1979, it was brewing in the back doors of the universities in Iran with the whispers of Leninism and Marxism and this and that, oh, how to overthrow the Shah and let's all be commoners. The Shah called himself Shah and Shah, meaning the Shah of all kings, because he saw his own people as a Shah himself. And what we saw in 1979 was a marriage of Marxists and Islamists getting together to overthrow a system that was functional, and it stood for nations. However, there is this idea of globalization of whatever the ideology. Now, you see, the Islamists want to have an Islamic caliphate around the world, and the Marxist communist globalists want to see a a one nation state for the entirety of the globe under one totalitarian regime that's full on dystopia. It's unattainable and it's very risky. It only gives room for anarchy. In 1979, when the revolution took place, or as we Iranians call it, the riot of the 79, the Marxists and the communists did all of the operational movements, and then the Islamists came over and they took over, because in a place where holiness is above all, and they believe they have holy rights to do whatever atrocities they want to do, they commit those atrocities. And in that sense, they committed 30,000 public executions or group executions against anybody who was against them, whether it was the original just civilian Iranians who said no to the Islamic Republic and didn't want that and were siding with the Shah of Iran, or the communists who helped facilitate the Islamic Republic's uprising and coming into place. They went and murdered every single one of them in a mass execution. The Islamic Republic's goal is this imperialist Islamist idea, and its first, number one, most strongest enemy in a society is an independent woman. And that is why we are witnessing a gender apartheid in Iran, because a woman in its entire existence is seen as an enemy. And this enemy is being confronted by the Islamic Republic, not only through the male militias who are in the forms of the Basij, the morality police, or the IRGC. It is also being attacked. Iranian women are being attacked by other brainwashed, self-selling idiots who are siding with the regime of misogyny in order to keep this oppression on other women and apartheid in place. It's a religious gender apartheid. It's a gender apartheid imposed on Iranian women, used by a religious force. And this religious force is using women to kill and hurt other women. Like, for example, who do you think allows for little girls to go and become brides to older men in whatever village they go and indoctrinate into this child marriage madness? Women, submissive, uneducated, or sort of self-hating women who want to see, because they haven't grown, they want to see the rest of the society submitting to that level of oppression. And by doing so, they are giving the very strong tool to the Islamic Republic to oppress other women along the way. That is why we have UN Women denying the atrocities against women elsewhere. Because within the UN, there are Iranian women, well, so-called Iranian, that we call them the traitors of Iran. Iranian women who go and represent the Islamic Republic, and then they go and read statements like, oh, Iranian women are free, they have education. Yes, they do. They are intellectual beings and they refuse to be oppressed. So in spite of the oppression, they have education. And then they go and say, we have female judges in Iran. Yes, we do, but these are the kind of judges you have in place who are oppressing other women so that the mullahs and the ayatollah can stay in place. We have to open our eyes to the position that the Islamic Republic is placing women in, and how that is being portrayed and used against us. Just women against women is one thing, but the entire system that is saying that women have religiously half the right of a man. Based on that religious right, Sharia law in place in Iran, women will have, imagine, technically speaking, an unmarried woman in Iran, based on the Sharia law, has to have a chaperone to go around. If it wasn't for the determination and the independence of the Iranian woman that has existed in spite of the past 45 years of oppression, this would be in place right now, everywhere in Iran. So the university encampments that we see against this so-called imperialist West is only a sense of a deep-rooted self-harm and self-hate that needs to be addressed. It's honestly, I see it as a mental health issue. Respect, a little bit of respect goes a long way. Iranian people refuse to accept that a bunch of idiots, I'm sorry I'm using such foul language if I may, absolute lunatic extremists took over our country 45 years ago. 96% of Iranians could not fathom and believe such a reality is going to fall upon them. That very shadow is now in the West. It's creeping everywhere, and it's coming out of the most intellectual, high-profile academic spaces in the world. So